Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Pig's Ear in Review with your lovely hosts, Riku Rose. How's it going?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. Not too bad for a Monday, and myself, my stuff. So we got another exciting episode today talking about Lost Judgment, a follow-up to the smash hit Judgment that came out in however many years ago. I can't remember anymore. It's been a few years.
2 years for the US.
For the US.
3 in Japan.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, exactly. Everything came out at once for this game, which is pretty exciting. But yeah, so we're going to just have a fun old chat about Lost Judgment and going over just the story, gameplay, talk about the DLC for a little bit. So you did a review, kind of a 5-minute review that came out the other day that gave some of your thoughts on it. And today we'll probably expound on a few of those as well. So with that, let's get right into it. So we find the boys back in Kamurocho starting off, but then, it quickly turns into going to Yokohama. And that's, of course, it's seemingly the setting for where these games are going to be taking place moving forward. Are you kind of getting that feel too, where like Yokohama is kind of like the new main setting?
I feel like I never used to feel like Kamurocho was small in the Yakuza game, but now I do.
Yeah,
and you can like walk across the map in 2 minutes.
Yeah, they put a lot of stuff into these games, into Yokohama. It's pretty insane.
Always was as well. Each game, it was like they tried to expand on Kamurocho in some way. They'd put like a secret casino underground somewhere, and then I think we soon found out there was more underground casinos the police didn't know about than there were like Popo stores just in general.
Yeah,
it kind of got a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, like they've put however many freaking games in like either Tokyo or Osaka now by this point. So like I am glad that they're exploring a different area. And granted, in some of the games there were other locations like Okinawa, and then in Yakuza 5 there were like Sapporo, and I forget where, maybe Fukuoka or something like that. But like generally it was Tokyo and Osaka. So it's good now they're kind of going to another locale, and it kind of has its own flavor to it, which is pretty cool. So it seems like, even though Yakuza and the Judgment games, assuming we're going to get more of both. I mean, Yakuza, yes. Judgment, to be seen, I guess. But it sounds like this is going to be the setting of both of these games moving forward. So that's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, and they're probably just going to keep adding and adding to it, and there's plenty of space for them to do it, because I saw a post where it was like, oh, this is what the school looked like in Yakuza Like a Dragon. It was nothing.
That's funny. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a good point.
There was a kid that apparently committed suicide there like 4 years ago when it was flat land.
It's just nothing.
Yeah, they were teaching on a field.
They developed it pretty dang quick. But I will say it was, I don't think I was expecting to see too much crossover, because I think they'd even said they're still trying to keep the series somewhat separate from each other, but there were little nods. I mean, I think in the first episode or two I was streaming, I ran into Ichiban Confection, so that was kind of funny to see. And then later on in the story, you do see one character, which, I mean, maybe we can get into in a minute, who was cooking in a restaurant that I wasn't expecting to see, which was kind of pretty funny from the Yakuza game, but
clearly couldn't afford the voice actor for just that one second.
That was funny. I was expecting him to say something, and then he's just like back turned, like cooking something, and that was pretty much it.
Like, is it worth like paying him $5,000 to come in to do this? No,
probably not.
Models are free.
Yeah, exactly. He already sold his rights to use his body. It's fine. That doesn't matter anymore. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, so the setting, once again, Yokohama, and they're going to keep adding to it. So that's cool. But yeah, as far as the story goes, I mean, Yagami's has his detective agency in back in Kamurocho, but then of course his buddies from the last Judgment game set up shop in Yokohama, which is kind of the draw for them to kind of go over there and help set up that detective agency. And that's, primarily where the rest of the game takes place. I mean, well, I should say a decent amount of it, but you do
still go back and forth.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, yeah, I take that back. They do go back. Yeah.
To be fair, you when you go back to Kamurocho, you literally go to the Genda law office or crash on Yagami's couch, and that's it.
Right.
That is pretty much it for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and also on top of that, for me personally, for my playthrough, I not breezed, but like I mainlined the story primarily without doing side missions. So I'm sure if I focused on side missions, I would have spent more time in Kamurocho or anywhere if I took that time, which I'm now going to be doing since I beat the story finally. But that's also why I spent less time in Kamurocho.
To be honest with you, like I've not done every side mission and things like that, so I'm sure there'd be someone who's like, well, actually, if you count, it's 50-50. But
Sure.
what I've seen as well, like barely any of the side missions take place in Kamurocho either.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty much all in the other maps.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but as far as the story goes, I mean, definitely a legal drama, more so than the Yakuza games for sure. I mean, that's the whole kind of draw of the series. But yeah, the main premise is, a body is found, but at the same time, there's a groping case happening, and the guy is you come to find out that he's trying to cover his tracks. And I'm going to be honest, there were times, maybe I'm just an idiot, frankly, but like the story got convoluted a little bit here and there for me. And I think, I don't know if it's maybe just, I just wasn't familiar with the character names and I was getting lost here and there. I think by the end of it, I got it, like how it all connected, but like I really had to focus a couple times. I don't know if you felt that way or not.
There were times where they were like, "Oh, we've got the evidence to like prove that you're lying," and I go, "Do we?"
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was one episode on the stream where it was one of those like Ace Attorney type of moments, like, yeah, point to the evidence, and I'm like, oh, I guess I know what it is, and I literally went through every piece I had, and it was the last one I picked because I had no idea what was trying to be understood here.
It's annoying because they're expecting you to pick a very specific thing, and the logic in your head might not line up with the logic in the game maker's head. So, although I'm thinking of a certain sort of way I can win an argument, because I haven't programmed it that way, everyone just looks at you and go, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Well, yeah, and it's funny because if you get it wrong, Yagami is like, "Oh, let me take that back and think about that one again." And that kept happening to me over and over again.
There were some times where they literally like do talk it over, but then go back and they're like, "Okay, actually pick the thing." But then there are other times where like Saori's just like, no idea what you're doing.
Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's more of that here. I mean, that's, once again, it is a legal type of drama, but yeah, so you're kind of going through evidence, you're gathering stuff, and then the whole thing is how can I even describe this? So you have the main guy who was convicted of groping on the train, which you come to find out was fabricated. But then it's because he was trying to hide the fact that he killed someone somewhere else that was involved with his son's bullying case. And am I getting that?
Yeah. No, but the thing that got me was they're like, "Oh, we know because he had breakfast in his stomach. We knew he got killed that morning." Just like, they held him for a day or two, and that's it. There were a few things where I was like, okay, like we're treating things that should be assumptions as fact.
Yeah.
There were a few little things like that. Like, why not kidnap him, hold him for a week, beat the crap out of him, and then kill him? Like, that's not unreasonable.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that they probably assume people will gloss over or they don't care about as much. But yeah, that's a fair statement. They could have gone down that route too. But yeah, and then the other way that they tie things in is that you have to go to the school for those missions. But that does tie into the story, of course. But then we'll get into like the side missions maybe in just a little bit. But like, then you meet a teacher there who was also had knowledge of it, and then the teacher's teacher, Koana, was like behind the scenes how you meet.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really understand the Japanese education system. So when they were like, "Oh, he was a student teacher," I didn't know if that meant he was a student that was becoming a teacher, or like things like that at the beginning, because he was also on the basketball team.
Right.
So that threw me a bit, because I was like, wait, so was he a student and then became a teacher there? And that threw me a little. But.
Yeah, I think granted, maybe just a translation thing, or they could have clarified it. But yeah, it seems like he was becoming a teacher, like like a teacher in training type of thing. Like he was like a college. He was in college to become a teacher, and he was kind of like an assistant, or that's what it seemed like to me. But yeah, and then really though, the kind of the main crux of a lot of this is Kuwana is kind of this not nefarious, but like in the shadows kind of vigilante justice kind of person. And
I liked him at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, even throughout the whole thing, I did like his character. I thought he was an interesting character, but yeah, then he's hear more and more of what he's doing, and I'm like, ugh.
I felt like, did you ever watch Tiger King?
Yeah.
No way you just latch on because we're just so trained with media, with there being a good guy and a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
You watch Tiger King, you're like, oh, this is the good person. Oh no, they run a sex cult. Okay, never mind.
Whoops.
Well, maybe this person's good. Oh no, she's been accused of killing her ex-husband. And I kind of were like, oh, Kawana's cool. If they can't ever get the guy who plays Yagami back, I'd like him to be the new lead. Oh, wait, okay, he's a serial killer.
Whoops. Well, so that's the thing. And I think in your review you posted the other day, you had mentioned that, yeah, there's plenty of shows that talk about bullying and how it affects people and like the real world kind of implications, but there's not too many that go, I don't believe either, into this kind of depth, not just with the subject itself, but like just with how it would actually work. Because like you mentioned Tiger King, but when it comes to like the vigilante justice aspect of it, I think of like Batman, for example. And like, yeah, Batman is meant to be gritty and real, but at the end of the day, he's a man in a bat suit flying around. Like it's not very...
Batman's black and white as well, though, isn't it? That's the thing. There's no. You kind of find yourself at times going like, I don't like what Kawana's doing, but
yeah,
there's that but there, isn't?
Yeah, exactly. But I think especially with this, it's not a guy with a fucking cape flying around. It's a very real, grounded, like, oh, I could. Even though there's outlandish parts from time to time, I could be like, okay, I could theoretically see this happening. Like, and I think it was a very real approach for the most part.
I mean, you hear stories about like kids snapping in real life and seeking revenge on their bullies and stuff like that. I know Kawana wasn't the one who got bullied, but like, as you said, there is that sort of serious aspect. And most of the things I've seen knocking the game is like, I don't think it dealt with subject matter very well. And I'm like, they're not going to hit out of the park perfectly every time. Okay. Right. But like, yes, you can, but the kind of consensus seems to be because they didn't 100% land everything, it shouldn't exist.
Yeah, it validates everything.
I'm just like, yeah, no one should even try it unless they're going to perfect it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that means there should be like 5 movies then.
Right.
The Dark Knight is my favorite movie, but I could point out things it didn't do great. Should that just not exist as a movie? Like, you know.
Yeah, I feel like video games unfairly get a lot of shit for stuff like that, and maybe it is because it is so interactive that you're expecting them to have perfected it and bug tested it, and it's like, no, it's a story just like anything else. So, but yeah, so his character was interesting, but then they brought in, I think towards the latter half, the fact that, okay, now you have this vice minister who's involved because she had a son who was bullied, and then she's either, maybe not, well, kind of her, but also some other dude were essentially directing their police force, whatever you want to call it, to sort of be okay with these ex-Yakuza coming in and creating like a new gang or group called the RK. And like I think that's the I'm trying to like be objective about this, because yes, it's a convoluted story, and if it was just a straight bully versus good person, that would have been a boring story. But I just felt like there were so many parties involved with this at times that I kind of got lost in it a little bit.
It went a bit Kojima towards the end, where it's layer upon layer without fully explaining the thing that it was trying to explain in the first place before it added another element.
Yeah.
Then you've got to explain the other elements that you introduced to explain
Right.
explain it out.
So like I got the picture of what they were trying to do. The story, I got it finally. But like if you were to like even right now, I'm trying to recount exactly piece by piece. I'm still struggling. Like shit. All right, how are this? Like how is that person involved versus the other one? And I still get lost a little bit. But I get like the overall story it's trying to tell, of course.
I think it would have been cooler if they left out. He was like the chief of police, or he was involved in the police force in some way.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been better if they'd left him out of it. To be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
like the mother who committed the crime because her son was in the coma.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a lot cooler if it was just this woman who seems like a typical mother who's got into politics, seems very straight-laced
Yeah.
on the surface, and even bring in the RK element later that she can sense the walls are closing in on her, and she just fucking loses it, and then starts doing things that you wouldn't expect her to do, like pulling in ex-Yakuza and stuff like that, and promising them stuff.
So I will say, kind of really quickly, so that group is called RK, and Soma says it stands for Red Knife, I believe is what he said. I thought, like he said, it's the Red Knife group. I think he said in one of his cutscenes, but I was like, all right, fine, maybe that's cool name, whatever. I thought what they could have done, unless I missed this, was RK stands for the initials of that vice minister, which was Rei Kutsumoto. I thought that would have been a nice tie-in, like a little, like, oh, it was her initials. Maybe that would have been too obvious, but I thought that's where they were going because I saw her initials early on.
I would have loved that meeting though. We should call it RK. You said you don't want anything that could come back to you and point things at you. I still think it would be a nice touch though. We have my name in there.
I think that would have been great if they did that, but I think for obvious reasons they probably didn't. I don't know. That one stuck out to me. But yeah, by the end of it, basically what happens is you eventually catch up to Kuwana in this warehouse, like Shenmue 70-person brawl type of scenario. I don't know if they took direct influence from that or not.
How big is this fucking warehouse as well?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying when I was playing it the other day. I'm like, first of all, how many fucking people are there here? But yeah, it was massive. I was going like up and down every which way. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, you're going down lifts, going up lifts, going down. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, what the fucking store in here, King Kong?
Yeah, it was massive. It was ridiculous. But yeah, you eventually catch up to him. Well, you catch up to Soma, who's this RK leader or whatever, and you beat the shit out of him. But then you fight Kuwana as the final boss. And I don't understand how he's alive, because you kick him off practically a 3-story building onto his back. And then on top of that, Yagami jumps down and like I see him land on his feet like fucking Captain America, and I'm like, my knees are about to explode just from watching this.
But so I know it's not Yakuza, but Yakuza battles and Yakuza cutscenes are two different realities.
Yes. And that's
Kiryu getting shot in a cutscene is the end of the world. Someone shoots him in a battle, it's like that much off the health bar.
Well, right, and well, okay, I'll touch on that in just a second, but before we finish out the general story, because yeah, I do have some thoughts on that one as well. But yeah, so you catch up to Kuwana and you fight him, and you think he's going to get turned in, and then it kind of cuts back to the court scene. And this is I mean, you messaged about this yesterday, that gripe you had of why did Ihara like agree to go back to the court scene. So yeah, if you want to talk about that, yeah.
I go to him and they're like, we know what you did, and he's playing all coy like, I have no idea what you possibly mean. Ha 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 ha. He's got everything he wants at that point. He's out of prison in 6 months. I've never been to prison, but I'm sure 6 months is a piece of piss compared to 20 to 30 years.
Right.
Okay. And he's like, yeah. And they're like, oh, but we know what happened and we're going to lodge an appeal. But they're like, you can't lodge an appeal if I don't want you to lodge an appeal. Now, see horror in that. Nothing the person can say will make me agree to lodge an appeal. I have won at that point. I've got everything I wanted.
Right.
There is no point. Oh, but then we're going to put the law in the news and stuff like that. No, it's already been done. People are already talking about the fact that he committed a murder and got away with it. There's no point. You don't have any other point to prove. You can go back to your fucking cell and smile like the Cheshire Cat.
And so
why agree to it?
So that's the thing. And granted, I'm clearly not Japanese, but I've watched enough about culture to, I think, appreciate where they
Am I?
were. I am an expert. No, I think I kind of get where they were coming from, and where, like, to us in like a Western mindset, I would be the same way. Like, fuck off. I'm sitting in my cell and writing the shit out. Like, I don't care about the law anymore. But I think what they were going for. Yeah, and I think what they were going for is the fact that Japanese society is very heavily much like focused on reputation, to the point where like ruining a reputation is equivalent almost of like death, and like you would never, like, that is like the end of your career. It's the end of an organization, like, and that's why a lot of Japanese people and companies are very apologetic, if even for like the most minor inconvenience. They like take that as a grave thing, without generalizing too much here, but like that, I think that's kind of what they were trying to get at here, is this would be looked at as a horrible offense for Japanese law. Once again, from a Western mindset, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'm getting the hell out of here. But I think that's kind of what he was trying to get at. I'm not saying it's effective. I'm just saying I think that's what they were trying to go for.
It's like, obviously I know the Japanese and American law system are very different, but it's like if OJ came out now and said that he killed Nicole, they couldn't try him for it because that case has already been ruled.
Yeah.
I don't know, like Ihara. If I was Ihara, I'd come out and be like, "Yeah, I fucking did it, but yeah, I got done for groping instead." You know,
like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. Like you proved the point. Like, you know,
we're gonna get a Japanese version of the book OJ did called "If I Did It," but from Ihara's point of view, which was a real book.
Being tiny in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was odd that Ihara agreed to just come back on his own reasons, but like, yeah, like I said, this is at least my opinion, I think, why he did that. But eventually he did, and they say they're going to get more evidence, and I think, yeah, they convict him or whatever, and he's going to get sentenced or some shit.
He pretty much, he does the CSI style of confessing.
Yeah, pretty much.
My mum loves CSI, and my dad always gets so angry that every person admits to it in the end, because all the evidence becomes so overwhelming, and that's all I thought of.
Just the guilt just overwashes them, and they have to admit it.
I didn't mean to kill her. Like, yeah, like in the witness room, they just confess to everything in 55 minutes, at the 55-minute mark.
Oh, we have to go to commercial. You got to confess.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically that's what happens, and then. I don't know if this was, I think they flash back to the warehouse for just a second, or I forget exactly how it went down. But yeah, basically Kawana ends up, like, Yagami lets Kawana kind of go because the evidence isn't, well, the evidence for the one murder was on the vice minister, but all the evidence for all the other times he's killed is basically non-existent. So Yagami's like, well, you can't really catch him at this point, or there's nothing to like get him on per se, right?
I actually like that. It wasn't a cut and dry, the good guys win at the end sort of thing. I did enjoy that ending. Some people, like the police chief, is effectively was non-existent at the end, even though he was in about 2 chapters, and they made out like he was a bigger deal than he actually ended up being. Yeah, no, I liked how they sort of dealt with Ihara at the end, Kawana at the end, the vice minister at the end. I like that. I just felt like maybe the 2 or 3 chapters towards the end, as you said, did get a little convoluted for convoluted's sake. Yeah,
exactly. So I think the story concluded in yeah, exactly. I'll agree, in a good way. It wasn't cut and dry. I definitely like those gray kind of narratives where it's not just that black and white. So I think their intent, like from an overall plan, was really good, but yeah, the middle was a little goofy at times. But so yeah, I mean, that's kind of the bulk of the story, as much as we could generally talk about it, I guess. But I guess, so coming back to something you said a minute ago that I wanted to touch on, which is kind of that dichotomy between gameplay and cutscene of these games. So in the Yakuza games, that exists too, but I think it's easier to stomach because these characters are so over the top and goofy and like have strength of like 10,000 men with one fist punch, like One Punch Man anime type of shit going on. So like, yes, it gets over the top in that as well, but I feel like that game stretches reality a little bit more, so I think I'm cool with it. With these Judgment games, I feel like it's too much at times, because especially the warehouse section, I'm just a freaking lawyer detective. Okay, I take kung fu in my spare time. Great, awesome. Am I really expected to beat up like 300 men in a row and then these two mega bosses like it's just nothing? Like,
So to touch on the kung fu part, I've been playing like the school story as the side story.
yeah.
And in the boxing mini game, someone's like, "Oh, do you do boxing?" He's like, "No, I do kung fu, but I taught myself."
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not how you learn kung fu. You
Just
don't
punch
just
yourself.
you don't teach yourself. You don't just go
Haven't you seen the Karate Kid? Wait, no, I guess he gets
in a
licensed too.
car and you're an expert.
Exactly. Yeah, and so I feel like I understand that they want to put action in this game and make it still like an action adventure. I get that. I'm not saying get rid of it completely. And on the other hand, on the other side of the spectrum, if they made this purely like an Ace Attorney game, I don't know if that would work either. So I think you need to have a middle ground approach. I just think they've leaned too much into the action adventure. I mean, if they're trying to make these two properties that kind of have their own appeal, I feel like they're leaning too much in that action adventure mindset for me personally.
It's weird because I feel like during the battles, I think Yagami flies himself around a lot more than either Kiryu
Uh-huh.
or Ichiban do as well. Because like the moment you start doing kicks, like he starts defying gravity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like so it is tough. It is tough because he's very floaty. He's jumping on top of people who are floating in the air
Hmm.
already and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I get what you mean though. It's just that sort of try to do that more serious take, but then the comedy elements sneak in there,
Well, I'm even
and it
fine
becomes
with
that weird mishmash.
well, like I'm even fine with the comedy, make it goofy. Like everyone needs to have a fun time and take breaks from their serious professions. I don't even care about the tone per se of like everything else. It's purely that you are just this indestructible tank again, and that part is like what is the difference for me. But once again, like they want to make this a fun brawler game. It's fine. It doesn't like ruin it for me or anything. It just kind of takes me out of it a little bit.
Honestly, the thing I found weirder is like a master there invites you to come to his school to investigate, and you kick the shit out of 50 students, and then stroll
Right.
into his office like nothing happened.
It's fine. Don't worry about this.
He's like, there's a serious case of bullying on one student, so you go in and break the
Just
bones of 50, and he's like, thank you for your help.
you've done a service to the school. Thank you. Yeah,
I have to say, I joked about it in my review, but there is nothing funnier than just going to the tender bar down the road,
mhm.
just getting absolutely drunk and storming in.
I'm your advisor now.
Yeah.
Fuck, I love it. It's a classic. What else? So I guess so. The school missions. I mean, yeah, the school is interwoven as part of the main story. But then I think the other draw of this is there is all of these extra missions that you can do in the school. And the thing is, like, side missions aren't new to this series. But what I will say is, I guess this almost started with Like a Dragon, because with Like a Dragon, there's of course the main story, but then like the business management, I feel like was kind of their main side thing you can do. There's plenty of other shit to do too, but like that business management was like its own dedicated sort of thing. And I feel like for this game, this is kind of the school stuff is kind of like their own big other thing you can do, in addition, of course, to all the other side missions you can do. So what I'm curious is moving
Yeah.
forward if they're going to kind of take that approach. Mm.
They did it before Yakuza 0 with the real estate
Oh, that's a good point.
and Cabaret Club as well.
That's fair.
Yeah, I feel like now they're getting into the thing. So pretty much like you have the drone races and the VR missions that have come over
Mm-hmm.
from the first game as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they want to add one big side story in with all the smaller side stories.
Yeah.
In that case, this one it's the school stories as
Mm-hmm.
well. Because
Yeah.
here's the thing. I love the Yakuza side quests and the mini games, and they're all wacky, but they're sort of like talented, but a master at none of them.
Mm-hmm.
No, like they're fun to do, and honestly, like I feel like you're playing it more for the humor and stuff
Yeah.
like that than you are for the actual mini game themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That,
Yes.
that that's the thing. with the school story as well. It's the story behind each of them that's the draw, not the robotics mini games. Weird.
Well, yeah, because they're not all these disparate like missions that you just run across per se. It's like kind of this, you build a sense of like community with this group of students, and you're seeing how they're interacting with each other. So I feel like it's more meaning towards what's going on, and not just another random dude off the street who lost whatever and need to go fetch it or something like that. So yeah, I'm not saying each game needs to have a school, but I think what I would like to see is each next game, whether it's Yakuza or Judgment, have like a big side story thing. And like I'm almost wondering, like in the next Yakuza, maybe it'll be like you have to own a restaurant and get that going and hiring people or something. I think that would be kind of fun if they did something like that. But yeah,
I want to see Ichiban run a video game studio.
that would be really funny. Actually, that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he doesn't realize like games are 3D now. He's been out of prison.
Yeah, that would be a nice way to tie into it, especially since he liked Dragon Quest so much. But yeah, for the school missions, as I said, other than the mandatory stuff as part of the main story, I kind of didn't really do a whole lot, and now I'm going to go back and start doing them. But you have I guess to get more into the sort of game mechanic stuff as far as other stuff you can do. So, I mean, yeah, there's the various side missions within the school, but then like you can help with the dance club, which is kind of funny, because there isn't karaoke in this game, unless I just missed it, right? Yeah.
There's none.
Yeah, so it's just dancing.
They ain't paying that money for the Japanese Tom Cruise.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can help the what is it? The MRC Mystery something club.
Yeah, mystery. It's not research phase. Mystery.
Maybe it is. Mystery review.
Mystery research club. It is MRC, and it's mystery something club. Yeah.
So you're basically the club's advisor and helping them with stuff. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe you might know more about it than I do, since I haven't done much about it.
Yeah, I've done it. It is generally the mystery club is the overall side story. To progress that, you have to progress the other clubs.
Mm-hmm.
It should be like, oh, I need you to look into the dance club, and you go to the dance club, progress the story, and there's a mini story there.
Mm-hmm.
Should be like, oh, to get further deep in this mystery and unlock its secrets, we need you to look into this biker gang. So you go to the biker gang, there's a mini story there. And that sort of, but it's 10 mini stories unfolding the big overall mystery.
Got it. Okay, nice. So, and then I'm assuming in addition to that, there are just other little things you can do throughout the school too, right?
There's like little side stories as well and stuff like that. But they're just generally side stories. The school stories is... So I'm surprised they didn't do that as like the DLC. Because there is a lot of content there. And I was saying the other day that I feel like it could have been its own DLC pack. They easily charged $20 to $30. I'm glad they didn't.
Right.
I want them to.
But yeah, I see what you mean, because it does seem, it seems like there's a lot there. And yeah, we'll get to DLC.
I've done about 10 hours of it, and I don't think I'm even halfway through it.
Oh, damn. Okay, I didn't think there was that much. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so we'll get into DLC in a little bit and kind of what we're expecting for upcoming stuff. But yeah, so either way, school's plenty of more stuff you can do. And actually, sort of related, but sort of not. I have a slight gripe with something. So with the dance, it's not even just the dancing game, but like even the karaoke games of the last few Yakuza. I think Like a Dragon did fine. It was probably one of the better ones. And Lost Judgment with the dancing is also one of the better implementations. But like, okay, so I love rhythm games like DDR or any music games and stuff like that. And as you would expect, anything relating to a rhythm game, the timing needs to be perfect. Like you have to get that mechanic down to a T, or else, I mean, the whole point of the game is not good. Like it's not going to feel right. And the problem I've always had with Yakuza games when it came to the karaoke stuff is the system they implemented always pissed me off. It was never quite good. Like you could kind of adjust your playing to get it to work, but I felt like they never quite got it. And with this dancing one especially, I felt kind of like, yeah, they got closer, but I still feel like they can't quite nail it. And I will say in this one, you can actually do a timing adjustment like in the menu, which is good. So you can like to deal with input lag and stuff. But I still felt like I kept screwing stuff up. And I'm thinking like, okay, Sega owns Hatsune Miku, which is like one of the best-selling rhythm games of all time. Why don't they just implement that system in this game? It would solve it immediately for any rhythm-based mini games. But I don't know if it's a weird licensing thing or whatever, because maybe it's not the same branch of Sega or something. But that would solve my gripe I have with some of these like rhythm-based games that they keep implementing.
So my issue is something different entirely with them.
Okay.
Is that no matter how bad or good you do, it feels exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when you played Guitar Hero, if you missed a note, messed up the song, crowd would start booing.
Right.
You know, you felt like, but then when you did well, the song came through perfect. The crowd are cheering.
Mm-hmm.
Felt different. Whereas if I don't hit one button, video and the song exactly the same, just plays.
Yeah, like Yagabi's still dancing, like everything's great, he's smiling, and
I don't really care about a score or anything like that. But like, what would be fun is if like, yeah, he messed up a dance move if you miss the input or something like that, and it adds a bit of humor to it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I'm always a fan of rhythm-based stuff because that's just a genre I love to play. But I just feel like they keep missing the mark on these rhythm-based mini games, and I wish they would like.
People love them though.
But yeah, they're fun, and I think they are goofy and they're fun. And if you get it, like you have a good time. I feel like they're so close, and they just need to spend like a little bit more time, or like I said, just steal the system from one of their other Sega properties. If anything, that would make it even better to have like another Sega property tie-in, like Hatsune Miku or something. That would just be a fun little like in-universe Sega. You know, they have Sega arcades in the game. Why not like throw that in and somehow do something with that? I feel like it's a missed opportunity. I hope they do that. Sega, if you're watching, that's a free one for you.
I mean, here's the thing: is like moving. Because they make these games so quickly, their improvements are so minor each time in like the gameplay mechanics.
Sure.
So it is a bit like moving a steamship at times and trying to get it to do a 90-degree turn.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I just feel like one day they're away with the karaoke system entirely and bring out a new one, and that will be the karaoke system for 10 years again. Rather than let's improve the system we've got.
Yeah, exactly. So once again, it's not like a game-ruining thing by any means. It's just something I've noticed, not just with this game, but their last couple of games. But it's all right. It's not a huge deal. Okay, other game mechanics things. So right in the beginning of the game, as part of like the tutorial, you were thrown these various mechanics, like the trailing people and the photography, the lock picking. Those are the ones that. Maybe those are the main ones that come to mind. And then unless I'm forgetting, I did not use those ever again until the lockpicking came up at the last chapter, I believe. But the tailing stuff, I don't remember using that again.
I think you might use it once, maybe?
Yeah.
Like the main story.
Right.
Yeah. In the side stories, I've used it more.
Okay.
Yeah. But also, yeah, the wall climbing and things like that. You do that. You use that a bit more, but to be honest with you, they made out like it was this amazing mechanic. And like in the announcement video, they were like, "Oh, look at this! He's climbing a wall. Ain't that fucking amazing?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And then you realize you just follow the white line.
Yeah.
There's no skill to it. There's no sort of. Like, I never updated the stamina bar for the grip at all or anything like that.
Sure.
And I never once fell off because I weren't quick enough or didn't do things correctly. It's just very much like, okay, I've got to get from A to B. That's it.
Yeah, well, the few times I did fall off, it was due to I don't want to say a glitch, but like I was walking to the place that I thought was correct, but like it like shoved me off, and I don't know if it's because I didn't hug the wall close enough or something, but it was weird. There was a couple times where I kind of like forcefully was pushed off, and then there was a time where like that happened, but it was the drop was like 2 feet, but it like kicked me out back to the beginning again because it wasn't the right path. But I only fell like 2 feet. It's not like I fell 5 floors down, so that was kind of annoying on occasion. But But yeah, it was.
One got me.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was yeah, a little underwhelming as well.
One that got me. You know, you like throw a coin to distract someone.
Yeah.
They go pick it up and then you knock them out from behind.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy I went up to and it wouldn't let me knock him out from behind.
Yep.
It was because I didn't throw the coin first.
Right.
I don't need to throw the coin. I'm behind him now, but the game is obviously going. So you have to do A for him to do B, so you can do C.
Yeah, that happened to me when I was streaming the other day, and I was getting so aggravated because I was like, I can literally grab him right now. I don't need to throw this. This is stupid. So yeah,
The only difference is he's looking at a coin.
Now I'm focused, binoculars straight on the coin. And I guess so. Kind of along those lines, when it came to the couple of segments throughout the game that did reoccur, which was I don't know what to call it, but it's like when you go into first person mode and you have to investigate a scene to see how you can progress. So you have to like focus on certain areas, like kind of around your room. I
don't like those.
Those were annoying me because it was a similar thing where I was like, I know I need to jump on top of this like storage unit or something. Like I could literally see the bar. I just have to do that. And not only was it, I had to kind of look at everything else in the scene almost before I was complete, but even when I knew what I had to look at, if I wasn't focused at the exact angle it wanted me to, I like couldn't accept it or whatever, and that got annoying.
You know when you go around the lady who's been groped's house, and you're like, okay, let's get an idea of what she's like, and you start looking around her apartment. I was doing it for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating that, because the thing is, Megami said, let's look at her apartment. Let's get an idea of what kind of woman she is.
Yeah.
Looking at like the photo frames, you see her son, who's weirdly just dancing in
right
corner, and it's freaked me out really. I'm like, if that's what kids are doing these days, God bless them. But so I'm looking around the house, and I'm just like, like what am I meant to, what am I missing? What am I missing? And what I was missing was her.
Yeah.
So he looked at her and said some sentence like, "Oh, you know, this is the lady that was groped." And it went to the next scene.
Yeah.
Never told me to do that. It told me, look at her apartment, get an idea of what kind of woman she is.
Right.
So I'm not looking at her. If it's, let's look at her, see what we can glean in some Sherlock Holmes sort of method, like, she's chewing her fingernail, she's very nervous, like, you know. Oh, I'm looking at her apartment.
Yeah, and so I know they once again, I know they have a narrative they want to tell. They want you to kind of do what they're thinking, but they marketed it as like, oh, you can piece all these different things together and kind of pick what makes sense. And it's like, not really. They're kind of forcing you down this path. But even if that was the case, I think they could have been more generous with like, I guess I'll call it, for lack of a better word, like the hitbox of what you need to look at. So like there were times where you had to be very specific with what you were doing, or else you would just pass over it. And I just felt like a dumbass because I'm like, I know what I need to do. I just can't activate it. So that kind of got annoying a little bit.
I also don't like that they kind of market the game sometimes as if like it's very detective, or like a David Cage style game where multiple ways to get there.
Right.
There's not. It's sort of like, oh, you can stealth, you can use parkour,
right? You
can use like your fists and stuff. It's like, oh, but you make us use all three of those things in a very specific order.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to give you the illusion of choice, and I think there's plenty of games that do that. They just handle it very well, but with this, they made it sound, exactly like one of those kind of games. But yeah, it just didn't quite work. So another
also
game,
why open the game with it?
Well, yeah, exactly. So yeah, coming back to the original point, it's the fact that they threw all of this at you, and then you never use any of it, or very few of it. But granted, maybe it's because I also mainlined the story, and if I would have done more side missions, maybe it would have come up more in like well integrated. So I'm guessing that's probably they wanted to throw it all at once to make sure you were well equipped moving forward. But it was a little jarring.
Like, introduce those elements when you come across them, then, because like I did the VR Paradise and the Pro missions, right?
Yeah.
The first time you do those missions, it says, here's how you fire the drone, this is how you play this VR game.
Mm-hmm.
They don't introduce those during the main. I know they did in the original game, but it's bloat for bloat's sake at times.
Right. The other mechanic I do have a bone to pick with is the QTEs. I don't mind them in games. I don't care if they're there or not, but holy hell. I'm trying to think of why they were so painful, and I don't know if it's because like the screen is so big, but then the QTE almost, I don't know if it was too small, and so like, and whenever it popped up, I was like, oh shit, I need to focus, but that by that point it's too late and I failed it. Like I literally failed every single QTE in this game the first time it came up.
I think the issue is, and I think I said this to you the other day, is firstly they're too small. They're all grey, so they all look the same until you have that half a second for your eyes to go, oh, wait, that's different. Also, they're too infrequent.
Right.
Because each time they happened, I let go of the controller, I'm watching the scene that's playing out, or I'm just not expecting it. And it happens, and half of the time bar, it's you going, oh, there's a QTE, I can pay attention. Then by that point, it's too late,
Yeah, and it's the fact that it's that style where it's not just one button at a time. It's saying, oh, no, you need to do the series of inputs as well. And I think that gets overwhelming because every time, maybe this was just me, but every time it popped up, for some reason, I kept like looking at the right one, or maybe I was trying to process all of them at once. And so once again, I like couldn't do it because I'm trying to process it. It was a surprise it was too small. And so like overall, overwhelmingly, one of the worst QTE implementations I've maybe ever seen.
Well, the thing that's annoying is you fail it the first time. Then the second time you go, right, well, I know the QTE's coming, and then you do it the second time.
Right.
Like, that's not fun because they're just making you repeat the step get to the thing that you should have been able to pass easily the first time.
Well, and especially when they come up in a battle, like so when it happened in the final couple battles, you have to do it, and if you fail, it refills their health bar, not completely, but up to that first. The final health bar gets refilled again, and I'm like, God damn it! Like I have to fight them again, and it just, I just don't know. You would think they would have been able to nail this down somewhat easily. It seems odd that they fucked up so bad.
I feel like it's been an issue in their previous games, though. That's the weird thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just very, very odd. Yeah. So, once again,
did you think of the snake style though?
Yeah. So getting into the fighting styles, I noticed very quickly that one particular fighting style was overpowered like hell, and that was the snake style. Like I kind of like tried the other ones first, and I'm like, okay, I'll try the snake one, and then I think I may have said this on my first stream as well, where like normally when it comes to countering or parrying in these types of games, I'm shit at them. I can never get the timing right. I feel like I always fuck it up. In this game, I got it like every single time, and that's why I was like, oh, if I'm getting it every single time, this is overpowered.
The last fight, he took half of my health away, and that was it. Normally, in like these games, you're like drinking the energy drinks, getting health back. You know, there's a bit of skill to it, but it's not even like you're having a dodge. You literally just press one. He goes that, and the guy goes behind. You hit him a couple of times. He comes at you again. You press L1.
Yeah.
You'll get some people who will say, "Oh, yeah, but you're not meant to play it that way or whatever." Well, I shouldn't have that option.
Yeah, they don't put it
like
in the
that.
game.
Is what it. That is what it is at the end. It's a style that involves parrying.
Right.
I thought the variety of enemies in this game was a lot better, so I was switching up between the styles. But yeah, literally every boss who had a knife breezed through it.
Yeah, it was a little less difficult, which I don't necessarily always have a problem with it because I don't need I'm definitely not the type of person where a game needs to be difficult for it to be good. Like I don't care about stuff like that. But with this, it legitimately felt like the challenge wasn't almost there a lot of the time.
Yeah. You kind of feel like you're cheating even though you're not cheating.
Yeah, exactly.
What I mean, it's like when you I know you don't really play RPGs, but
Mm-hmm.
when you're like 20 levels higher than you should be, and you're just clearing it, and you're just like, yeah, the challenge is gone. It just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel it's weird. I feel like they could have balanced it a little bit better, or give you a reason to use the other fighting styles for some reason more. So yeah, I stuck with snake style pretty much the entire game, to be honest. Like, yeah, I switched back and forth a little bit, but the snake one was overwhelmingly what I used for sure. And I guess speaking of the fighting, the other thing that was introduced, well, I don't know if this was in the last ones. I think this might be the first one, is all those extracts that you can have. So you can have.
I didn't really use them.
So I used them just because, to see what the hell they were. There was I think towards the end, the last boss fights, I ended up wanting to actually use them because I was struggling a little bit. But those are for sure overpowering. So there's one where you literally shoot a laser out of you like Goku, like at the enemies. There's another one where you're summoning swords like in Final Fantasy 15 and like shooting or hitting people. There's some defensive ones or whatever. And I mean, it's cool. It's just another thing to make it goofy or whatever. But at the same time, it also still is a bit of a dichotomy between the fact that there's that and this is a serious legal drama. Like, it was just a little odd, but it's whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of why I didn't use those.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, saying they are cheating, but they feel more like cheating.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you just felt like I felt kind of weird using them. Like,
mm-hmm.
I would be in a boss fight that I was struggling with, and I'd go to the main menu to give myself back health, and I've got all these extracts sitting there. It's just that part of my brain that says, like, yes, you could use those and win this fight easily.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah. So I figured, why not? I'll still use them, but yeah, I 100% understand what you mean by that. Yeah. I guess also really quick, speaking about like foods and drinks and stuff, you can't use vending machines in this game, which I thought was odd because you could in the last ones, or am I not thinking of this right? Because
I don't remember the first one. I know normally in the Yakuza games you can.
Okay, so maybe I'm just forgetting about the first Judgment, but like using vending machines.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I just for some reason was like, oh, I'm going to go to this vending machine to get a drink. Then I'm like, oh, I can't use them. So yeah, that a little different to me, I guess. I don't know why, but like even if it was introduced in the Yakuza games, I don't know why they wouldn't just bring over that mechanic into this game. It seems odd that they just leave that out.
You don't see characters literally drink them in the Yakuza games either, do you?
I mean, you can
not like Shenmue where he like.
Well, right, but you could still go up to them to buy stuff, to use in battles and stuff like that.
Because part of me wondered if it's with the actor who plays Yagami, if it's like, oh, we don't want him drinking Pepsi because. You know what I mean?
Knowing Japan, that wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, he could. Who
knows? He's got to deal with Coke or something like that.
Right,
but
that would be pretty funny because they do have actual brands. Like they have one of my favorite drinks, CC Lemon, in the game. So who knows? Maybe they didn't want to go into that brand territory. Some other kind of more smaller ones, the Sega Master System games that they introduced. It was cool. I played it like once and didn't really bother with it again, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I played any of them.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. It's kind of like
they're all games that I've either played before or like many bundles. That those sort of games are so readily available everywhere that you just sort of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's fine. It's kind of like with Shenmue, where you had the arcade and then you could have the Saturn at home type of thing, and it's cool. Like it's not like it's hurting anything. But I almost wish that the Sega arcades in the game were more fleshed out. I mean, I know they kind of rotate the games a little bit. I mean, they had a full version of Virtua Fighter 5, which is cool. They had Motor Raid again, which is an awesome old arcade game. Sonic Fighters, Fantasy Zone 2, I think. Of course, the UFO catchers. But like, I really wish they would have. Oh, and wait, was it Out? Or no, Space Harrier I think might be in, or maybe Hang On.
Yeah, Space Harrier's on there, and Super Hang On.
Super Hang On, okay. So, I mean, it's a good selection.
Depends on the arcade you go to, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a good selection, but I wish they would flesh that out a little bit more. Maybe add some more variety.
Yeah, well, I remember once reading a thing about like during the sort of like Dreamcast, GameCube, PS2 era,
Mm-hmm.
the game started throwing in old classic games for you to play in them.
Mm-hmm.
Like Animal Crossing, I think, had a bunch of NES games, the
Yep.
original one.
Mm-hmm.
Shenmue had all the old Sega arcade classics.
Yep.
It was like Donkey Kong 64 had like the original Donkey Kong and Super Mario and things like that.
Yeah.
But now companies sell those games for $3 to $4.
Yeah.
So why give it away for free?
Yeah,
I
there
think.
probably is that reason behind it, a financial. Of course, why am I not surprised?
I mean, because you say it's like a full version of Virtua Fighter, but like it's not the full version you can buy
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's more a demo of hey, like this.
Give me some more money for the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, once again, it's not like a detriment with to the game that they have those Master System games. It's cool. It's something a little bit different, I guess. But I just didn't mess around with it too much. The drone, I haven't really done anything with. You can have a dog in this game.
That's cool. I like the dog.
I mean, it's fine. I haven't really found a use for it. Yes, I guess yet.
He helps you on side mission.
Okay, so maybe I'll hold off. Yeah, but sorry for anything for the drone. Was there anything like you used for it, or any side stuff, or?
There is like some side stuff and like the drone racing, obviously. Drone racing is what it is. It's exactly the same as the first game.
Yeah.
If you're holding out on buying this game because you want to know how the drone racing is at first, just play the first game.
I have to know. Did they improve the mechanics? Yeah, so it's in there, and then of course
you get people who won't buy games for weirder reasons.
You're right. That's fair. That's a fair statement. And then of course the other big new thing is the skateboarding, which like, yeah, it's cool. You can get around town faster. That's neat. You can sort of grind on stuff, but it's all right, I guess.
I feel like that was something they made. They shot the trailer for it, thought it looked cool, and didn't do much else beyond to improve it.
So, is there okay, in the trailer there's a skate park, right? Like, is that in this game yet, or is that upcoming DLC?
No, like there's school stories and stuff like that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I haven't done that yet, but just other than that though, just general traveling around. Like I said, I'm glad you don't just have to walk around or run around. So I mean, it makes it faster.
I at first started using the skateboard to get around because I was like, oh, you're clearing the map so much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So when you just want to do the story, it's a nice way to just get from A to B really quickly.
Yeah.
No one like fights you when you're on the skateboard. And then I realized really quickly it'd be just really a lot quicker if I took the taxi.
Yeah.
So I usually use the skateboard to the taxi and the skateboard from the taxi to the place I wanted to get to because the taxi would only get me so close.
Right. Yeah, and you can of course go on the main streets, but then on some of the side streets it like kicked you off, which is whatever, it's fine. I felt like I ran into stuff a decent amount.
Did you try getting around Camarocho with it?
No, wait, can you or no?
Yeah. The thing is because it's so dense with people and all it's just you hitting in the people,
yeah.
putting the skateboard away. You put the skateboard back down, hit another person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably why I don't remember using it all that much because it kept fucking hitting everyone. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. I mean, once again, cool addition. Maybe it could be refined a little bit, but yeah, it was all right. Not too bad. Okay, so before I guess going into the DLC stuff, any general other comments about the story or like game mechanics that you can think of?
Main thing, like I said it in my shorter review, like I do think they need to be commended for trying something a bit different.
Yeah.
Yakuza games are really limited, and that's why I struggled how to word it.
Mm-hmm.
My other review. Yakuza games are always going to be what they are.
Yeah.
Because they aren't the peak of innovation each time.
Right.
They've tried to do something a little bit different here with the story, in that they try to tackle a tough subject. And one of the things I will commend them on for trying was I'm surprised they did it, was where they made out that the lady who got groped on the train,
Yeah.
lying. I thought that was a brave story beat to go down.
Sure.
Like, I'm not saying I'm glad that it weren't true, or like, you know, like that. Like,
right.
most people would be scared to put that in a game.
Well, it's also just sorry, really quick. I will say it's a very Japanese thing too. Like it's a very common Japanese thing. So, and that's I think a lot of people probably if you play these games, you understand it by now that these are obviously Japanese focused. But it's stuff like this and kind of what I was mentioning earlier with the political kind of situation and being like not embarrassed and all that stuff, like those are very real Japanese concerns, and this particular, like what you just described, is a very real thing that happens in Japan to this day constantly. So maybe to the West it might seem like, oh, that's like, why would you tackle that? But like, no, it's legitimate.
It's more the fact that imagine going into a meeting with developer, like publishers and stuff like that, and be like, this is what the game's about. It's going to be about this guy faked a grouping train.
Yeah.
Most publishers would give pushback nowadays, be like,
yeah,
or we're not sure if we feel comfortable saying that it's faked and things like that. You know, like, because that's a real issue that happens.
Yeah.
It's a serious issue that happens. And they clearly knew people were going to, because I think they say at one point as well, like, you know, accusing someone of faking this is like quite disgusting. And he's like, I know, I wouldn't do this unless I was like sure of this.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing that the fact that this is a modern game is they even use the terms like deep fake and faking footage, and like that's part of the story. It's not like they're still relying on old like cop drama tactics from the 2000s or something. Like, no, these are very real like things that also happen today.
No, I do get slightly frustrated though at some of the translation side of it as well. Firstly, the translation team on this do an amazing job. Like Sega's translation team's great. Like not just for this, but like the Persona series and everything. How authentic they keep it. The part I don't like is when they deviate to very Western style.
Okay.
And they use words like incel, like me and you. But we use the internet. We know what incel means.
Sure,
right?
sure.
You hear that when you're out and about in the real world?
Not really.
Like, no. These are things like there's a lot of stuff that they get the characters to say or do. It's very internet culture.
That's fair.
Like, I guarantee if people work for Sega, they're surrounded by people who live in this internet culture. Similar, like me and you talk in a way that I'm not going to talk to someone I work with.
Right.
Because they're not going to be on the set, like they're not going to know like Pick Beard Man from like 10 years ago. Like, you know, like just stupid things that, like internet sayings, internet lore. But they just seem to assume that everyone in the world speaks like that when they don't.
Right. Yeah, they could balance it. I'm curious how much of that is the translation versus like, was that the case in Japanese as well? Like, did they use that similar kind of language or not? That'd be good to know. So I guess maybe one thing I do, maybe before going into the DLC for just a second, another thing, and this isn't necessarily specific to Lost Judgment, but it's something I've been thinking about, which is a lot of, like, obviously there's been a lot of games that RGG Studios put it out in terms of the Yakuza and now the Judgment series. And so, yes, each one kind of introduces little new things here or there, or sometimes bigger things, but generally speaking, this is a formula that they have, and they can modularize, if I'm saying that right, different parts of it as needed. But generally, like 80% of the time, it's kind of the same base formula. Personally, I don't have a problem with that, because if each one of those has an interesting new main story, to go along with that, I think that's fine. Like, I don't care if the formula itself is reused as long as there's interesting stories to tell. However, you can contrast this with kind of Nintendo's approach, at least how I view it, which is they don't release games like of their mainline series unless they kind of revolutionize it every time. Like, for example, like I read a story that from Miyamoto that a new F-Zero game hasn't come out since the GameCube because they don't know what to do with the series next. Like, they can't push it. Like, even though literally everyone is saying just fucking put a whole host of new host of tracks with the same characters, HD graphics, people will buy it up in a heartbeat because people love that series. And I feel like with Mario, with the last time they had the whole hat mechanic, right? But people probably would have been happy with like another Mario 64, frankly. So there is that difference in approach, and I think with these games, I don't mind that they keep doing it as long as a new story. But I guess what I'm curious is, do you feel that way, or how would you like to see it moving forward?
I don't mind them doing that. I'd like them to space it out more.
Okay.
And maybe improve mechanics more between releases.
Okay.
Because we had the PS2 games.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Yakuza 3 till like Yakuza 5 the same. And you had like when they brought out the Dragon engine.
Yep.
It hasn't really been a leap since then.
Right.
Or we like all the spin-offs with all the remakes. 12 or 13 titles deep. I feel like there's only been 3 big leaps.
Yeah, and we're at the point now where, well, I was going to say everything is remastered. That's not true either. I mean, there's of course the non-US release stuff that they could bring over, but essentially that would just be a remaster. It wouldn't be anything new. So they can't just keep doing that and expecting it to be these big leaps. So yeah, like I don't even know what would be a big leap next. But I think to your point, I would like to see maybe a refinement of the existing stuff more than anything.
I mean, like with the Judgment series in particular, like give me the option of stealth into a building, into a building, or something else. You know, like your trailers make out like it's a choice. No, it's just 3 different mechanics that you use along the way.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that's fair.
I mean, the Yakuza games are what they are. I know they've changed up to the RPG mechanic now. So that's going to be what they are going forward. And I like that. I like that that was different enough that it gave the series like a fresh feel. And I'm interested to see where they go with that.
Right.
Judgment, I feel like weird because we're 2 games in, but I feel like already Judgment, because it's the same style as the originals, doesn't feel as unique and feels a bit more burnt out.
No, well, yeah, and that's. I almost want to. I don't know if I should clarify what I said earlier about how much it leans into the action versus the law, but I'm wondering in the next one if they did lean more towards that Ace Attorney feel, how people would feel about that, where it was more not grounded, but like they leaned heavier into those true detective mechanics versus the beat 'em up. Because yeah, even like the Yakuza, even though it's the turn-based stuff and this is the action, at the end of the day, you're still beating the shit out of people. So like, it almost seems like we're double dipping a little bit, even though they're different mechanics, so to speak. So I feel like if they leaned away from the action adventure beat up more, it would distinguish the series more.
I honestly, the thing that would most excite me from RGG Studio is if they came out and were like, "Oh, we're going to do a brand new IP that's set in like a Lord of the Rings style world." You know, like saying something completely different like that.
Yeah.
That would. But me and you both know that's not happening.
Right. Well, we've talked about even doing something like in space or something like that would be fun. But yeah, they're probably not going to do that.
I mean, Nagoshi left Sega now.
Yeah.
Official. I had someone on Twitter ask me, like, oh, you know, Yoshi said he'd love to make a Star Wars game. What would you like that to look like? Or, like, what Yakuza characters would you like to appear in it and stuff? And I was like, I said to him, honestly, the thing that would most excite me was, I don't know if you ever played Pod Racer?
Yeah, of course I have. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, he made F-Zero on the GameCube.
Yeah.
Make a pod racer game.
Dude, I would love that. That would be incredible.
No, that'd be like, but make it like you could make it wacky and stuff
Yeah.
like that with power ups and things like that. I was like, that would have excited me more than we are making a Star Wars Yakuza game.
Mm-hmm. And I almost
Because it's
want.
different.
And granted, there might be, there are various reasons for why he left, but I also wonder if he felt a little limited with where he was at, where he couldn't do those fun projects. And I'm curious if going to a new studio, he will have that freedom to really do other things as well. Who knows? It's just speculation.
Find out he only left like a week or two ago, so you got to think he's got to start all over again.
Right.
We're probably 3 to 5 years away from seeing the first thing that he's even gonna.
Yeah.
Out. The reason the Yakuza games came out so quick is every one of them had a foundation to build upon.
Yeah, exactly. Let's hope it doesn't turn into another Balan Wonderland situation. Sorry, Wonder World. My apologies.
Why everyone calls it Balan Wonderland? Why don't they just call it that?
If they ever made a sequel, that would certainly be it. Okay, actually, before we talk about the DLC, there is one other thing I wanted to mention. So, and this isn't unique to Lost Judgment. I think a lot of games have started doing this, and I have a little bit of mixed feelings on it, which is if you do the digital pre-order, you get it 3 days early or some amount of time earlier before the physical release. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. What do you think? I'm torn.
It's bullshit.
Okay, because like I understand it's not just a sales thing, it's because they don't want people reselling their copies and wanting to keep it too. So like I understand there's a financial thing about it, but to like actually gatekeep the game from being played up to like 3-4 days early, I think that's kind of a dick move, honestly.
So here's the thing. In America, right, games are $60.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've got an English accent, but I actually live in America now.
Impossible.
Okay? The games are $60, right? And when you go on like the PlayStation Store or things like that, right? Games are $60. That's not the case in England.
Sure.
I was Googling something about Lost Judgment. You could buy Lost Judgment on the PlayStation 5, a box copy, like £36.
Okay.
Right? Which isn't too uncommon. Most games are between like £30 to £45.
Okay.
It varies. It's not like America where every game is $60.
Okay.
I think it was Uncharted 4 was like 45 when I bought it, but then you could get the lesser known games for like 30.
Okay, got it.
Every game on the PlayStation Store, no matter what, is 55.
Interesting. Weird.
It's more expensive to buy it digitally.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get 3 days early, but it's costing you more money.
Yeah, that's not going to happen for me, at least.
I would, because like I was used like $10, $10, but then you're like, well, no, that's like 20% off the game.
Yeah, it's a sizable chunk.
Yeah, like that is a decent amount of money. Like that is one of the things like living in America. I found is like playing video games I find more expensive because I used to just wait and like the week of each game coming out, you'd get a deal. Like, I think it was like one of the Mario Kart games I got for like £28.
Really?
New. Yeah, just because like I found a coupon code online for some online store or something.
Yeah. So I wish there was a different incentive. I mean, it's effective. People pre-ordered it, especially in the world of streaming. People want to stream it early and all that sort of stuff, but like it just rubs me the wrong way. I wish
rubs me the wrong way, but here's the thing as well. If everyone actually was as angry as they made themselves out to be online about it, it wouldn't happen.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
The reason they do it is because people buy it.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, for me, and granted, this is also a difference between a lot of people. I'm the type of person where I love physical collecting of games, and so for this game, like I wanted the physical copy, so that's why like there's nothing really that they could have ever done to get me to pre-order it digitally. So that's me personally, but I know not everyone's like that as well.
Just react. It's like if you went online, you wouldn't think anyone likes Call of Duty. The best, but it's the best-selling game every
Right,
year.
exactly. People are,
Like
yeah,
people complain about this stuff online, but ultimately, people still buy it.
yeah, of course. So, anyways, just and like I said, this isn't unique to Lost Judgment. Other companies are doing this too, so it's not like a knock against them, and it's not. I doubt RGG Studio probably had any say in this. If I had to take a guess.
Sega do it a lot. I think they did it for Persona 5
Okay.
Strikers. They did it for Monkey Ball.
Yeah. So, anyways, as far as the general DLC goes, though, so there's the Essentials Pack, which was released, and that's where you get different types of dogs. You get the hoverboard, which is primarily what I used. You get all those different extracts. You get kind of like a sampling of all of them. What else? Maybe a cosmetic item or something. Oh, the Sega Master System games, you get like extra ones. I think that is that it for all those. I think.
Yeah, it's like the motorbike. You get the drone.
Well, so that's the one that just came out, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, the Essentials Pack is what came out first, and well,
There's the
yeah, it was a bunch of all that kind of
girlfriends.
stuff. Maybe that was it. Yeah, that may have been it. But then the other pack, which funny enough got a early release, quote unquote, but like did it? Someone fucked up. I feel like.
So what happened was a bunch of people on Xbox accidentally just started getting it about 3 or 4 days before they just
Right.
released it for everyone. Yeah.
So they're like early release, which whatever doesn't make a difference. But yeah, that's where they then had. So the motorbike. What is that for? I don't even know what to use that in.
That's a school club thing.
Okay. And then there's the drone you said. So is that like new races or what is that?
It's because you upgrade the drone to make it better for the races
Okay.
and stuff like
Got
that.
it. And then the other big thing was the boxing. There's a boxing, like, is it a sub story or is it just a new fighting style?
So yet again, it's a school story, the boxing club.
Okay.
You use a different fighting style when you're boxing,
Mm-hmm.
and this DLC lets you use that style out in the wild.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. And then was there one other thing as part of this new one? Or was that it?
Like sparring partners and things like that.
Okay. Got it. But yeah, so that recently just came out. So yeah, a lot of mostly either cosmetic, side story, kind of general stuff, which is fine, whatever, it's cool. All kinds of little neat things to do. But the big one is going to be for next year, which is the Kaito side story, or just like an entire new an expansion, basically. So I'm trying to think, did they release really anything about that yet as far as what it is?
Like a screenshot, and they said like 2022.
Yeah. So what do you what do you hope it to be?
And what would be fun, I feel like this would be its own game entirely, is like, like Yakuza 0, just like Kaito stays in the actual Yakuza.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it's going to be more something like where Kaito just does a little side case.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be surprised if it's like more than 4 hours.
I wonder if, because he still has those Yakuza connections or whatever, I wonder if, because towards the end, they meet up with that one old dude who's like down on his luck drinking. He was a former head of a clan. I wonder if they're going to tie that in somehow, and like he's going to go back and help him one more time or something. I don't know.
When you go to see RK for the first time and they're like, we only want to talk to Kaito, and he goes off, I was like, oh, this is the DLC, but then you just meet up with him like 5 seconds later.
So who knows? I mean, I'm looking forward to. I love that character. I think Kaito's great, so I'm excited to see what it is. Yeah.
Until they tell us, though, it's sort of like it could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think overall, I mean, definitely enjoyed the game. Certainly not perfect by any means. I do want to see the series continue for sure. I think it does. Something needs to change, in my opinion, to distinguish it more from Yakuza, and whether that's leaning into the law side of things, less actiony. I don't know if that's exactly the right answer, but certainly refinement, I feel like, could be used a little bit more.
I just think they need to, as you said, they need a differential. I think the lore side would be fun. Like when they first announced the first game, I saw the initial trailer, then I bought the game and played it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw nothing else for it. I legit thought it was Ace Attorney more than it was Yakuza.
Yeah.
Because that's what the first trailer sort of made it out to be like. It made it seem like you were going to do detective work and then take everything you find to court.
Yeah.
Like, oh, cool. And then I booted it up and I'm like, oh, it's Yakuza.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
What it is.
Objection.
Yeah, like, played this before. This man just looks weirder.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So once again, like I'm still gonna play whatever they come out with next. I mean, I just yeah. I want something a little bit different.
Wouldn't do it, but like, how great would it be if they legit just made it Ace Attorney, where they were like, right, there's going to be 5 separate cases that are a few hours each.
Mm-hmm.
Out the game, maybe they all tie in at the end, like Ace Attorney does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're going to go to court at the end of each of them.
That'd be great. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be this one big mega story. Yeah, they could, or like you said, it could tie in. But yeah, I think that would be really neat just to spice it up a little bit, because it would be neat just to see more of the city and kind of how they all the different areas connect. And it doesn't always have to be this crazy over the top like nationwide scandal. It could just be like,
Yeah.
I think like you could, if it was more individual smaller cases, then you could see all of Yagami's like his work, how he thinks about things, and kind of these different approaches. And yeah, it could be a little bit more realistic, I guess.
It's like when you go to Tojo in the witness room, not the witness room, the visitor's room.
Mm-hmm.
It feels a little LA Noire.
Mm-hmm.
Ever played that?
Oh yeah.
Without the options. It feels like you're watching a YouTube video of
Right.
LA Noire where you can't change this in any way. If you had multiple options, if you could actually mess up a case.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that would be cool. Well, I guess basically have consequences, right? Like just have, yeah.
With LA Noire, you had like all the smaller cases, but there was a grand story overall. But you could pick the wrong guy in the smaller cases, and it didn't affect the overall story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I think that would be pretty cool. And I guess speaking
Gonna do it? No.
Right, probably not. But speaking of that, I will say some of these cutscenes got a little long and lengthy at times. And granted, I know that's not so unique just to this game. A lot of these Yakuza games have that. But there were a couple times where I was like, oh my God, this is a bit much at times for me. I don't know. Maybe that was just me.
Oh, I brought it up that by about halfway, you know everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like in other Yakuza-style games where there's still like, before the last boss battle, like the last boss pulls the mask off and you go, oh, it's him.
Yeah.
You knew everyone, you knew the parts they were playing. And towards the end, it's a lot of people just talking about what's going to happen or what has happened. No one's really revealing much.
Yeah, and once again, given that this is more of about a law, politics, bullying thing, the final showdown was just a battle, like, you know, this warehouse mega brawl thing. And once again, I keep coming, not to sound like a broken record, but I keep coming back to that of like, it's odd that that was the finale. And granted, you do go back with Ihara and admitting he's guilty and all that stuff, but I feel like they should have made that like discussion and courtroom thing more of the finale and focused on that more, and you doing the evidence, and like I feel like that would have been more impactful, I guess.
We spoke about in our Final Fantasy review that video game companies think everything has to have a final battle or a final boss.
Right.
They don't. Don't have to have a final boss. If a game ends, it's fine.
Yeah.
4 people online will cry, why wasn't there a final boss? The game just ends. So what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like And once again, I need to be objective a little bit because I think for us, we very much value story and how it ties into things. And so, like, I think that's where you and I really like these types of games. But granted, I guess there are people who don't give a shit about story, just want to boom, 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 punch people or whatever. And it's like that's what they care about. And they need that like final challenge. But yeah, not every game needs that. And I think if you want to still have that for Yakuza, I think that makes sense because it is more an over-the-top type of narrative. But for this, it doesn't need to be that. And I hope that's where I hope they lean into this more, is to make it its own thing where they can take those liberties a little bit more is all.
Hopefully we see a judgment-free one day.
What do you want to have it
Hopefully
called
the
to mess up the alphabetization even more?
Oh yeah, like quiet judgment or something like that. I don't know. We got to put it. We call it absent judgment. So you got to put,
let's put it back in the beginning. Bad judgment.
I don't know. That pisses me because even if you go online on your, even if you buy the digital copy, it's still in the L section.
Is it? That's funny. That's so funny.
I was actually thinking the other day we should make a Judgment 2 cover for people.
That would be funny. We should do it and release it on Twitter.
So they can put it in order on their shelf.
Oh my god! Well, we need to do a Twitter poll. You should do a Twitter poll after this. Which do you prefer? Do you place it before or after Judgment, or where do you place it in your library?
Do you put it in the L section or the J section?
For me, I put it right after Judgment, even though it makes me
cringe.
You have to. Yeah, I hate it. But sorry, anyways. But yeah, moving forward.
It ain't as bad as Rocky 6 and then you go Creed.
Yeah, like, oh god, no. Why would they do this? Oh my god. But yeah, moving forward. Yeah, definitely look forward to the next one. Yeah, can't wait.
Honestly, like, it sounds, considering we run the Yakuza fan site, it's hard to be excited for Yakuza games, I feel like.
Just because there's so many of them, or?
You know what you're getting.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Like, in my head, I know what the next game's going to look like.
Of course.
Yeah. Believe it or not, that's not because someone's told me this time.
Yeah, wait a minute. Do I have to bleep this part out? Shit. Yeah, I mean, but that comes back to what I was saying before of like, I don't... That's because I play these games for the story. And that's why if they kept the mechanics 100% the same, or maybe just refine things a little bit, but it was like a completely new story, I would still enjoy it. And I would still... Like, I recognize I would still have to go through the motions of every other Yakuza and now Judgment game of like, okay, here's the side stories, here's where I level up things, here's all the goofy shit I can do. And it's almost like, yeah, I understand that's going to be there. But like, if they just, like, if the next Judgment game was like another bullying case, I'd be like, all right, I don't need this again. But if it's like some other interesting law case, cool. Like, I think I'd be fine. But with Yakuza... I think there's so many of them that it's hard to keep that going, I guess.
That's why they threw in a new character.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. I really enjoyed this game, and it might seem like the chat has made it sound like not. Yeah. And I really enjoy every Yakuza game for the most part that I play. I didn't like Yakuza 5. But...
Son of a bitch.
For what? Get me wrong, I'll buy the next game RGG Studio make day one.
Yeah.
Unless they did come out and say we are making a fantasy epic third-person game. It's hard to be like blown away.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like when studio comes out and a new IP and it's a studio you love and you're excited because it's something different and you feel like they're going to change things. RGG Studio is going to do Yakuza, and you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, get that day one.
Well, yeah, at this point, it's turned into a bit of a soap opera where like you're not playing these generally to get this mind-blowing new experience every time. You're doing it to kind of keep up with your friends and family and see what kind of wacky antics they're up to this time, and which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's almost kind of how I've kind of started looking at a lot of like as a comparator, like the MCU, where like it's become a soap opera where I'm watching these not because I'm expecting some insane mind-blowing experience, but the characters are neat. I like seeing what they're up to. Am I ever going to watch these movies again? Probably very little chance, but I still enjoy watching them. And that's kind of the approach I'm taking with these games. However, if the studio was to completely do something insane the next time, and they have the talent for it clearly in their studio to do that, that would make it more interesting. But I think to your point earlier, it shouldn't be another Yakuza or Lost Judgment game. It should be something in a different IP, like something in space, something Lord of the Rings, like just do something different, and I think that would be more impressive, personally.
The last thing they did that was like shocking was probably Binary Domain.
Well, you could almost say Fist of the North Star, but granted, it's the same style of game.
Yeah, but that's it. It's like, okay, say they made Dragon Ball Z, right? Like made a Dragon Ball Z game. Me and you both, I don't watch Dragon Ball Z, but I know that is going to be Yakuza style fighting.
Right.
It's going to be that same engine.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, binary, as far as a different type of game, yeah, Binary Domain, or well, Super Monkey Ball, I guess. But yeah, it would be nice to have them try something different, because like I said, they clearly have the talent. Like there's a lot of talented people there, so I think it would be nice. And to be honest, I mean, it's inevitable they were going to do another Yakuza game, and obviously they kind of let that announcement as part of Negoshi's going away announcement, like, yep, we're working on the next one. But what I'm curious about with him gone is if they will now, either in parallel or after that next Yakuza game, truly try something different under new leadership. I think that would be interesting. But anyways, hopefully you guys liked the discussion today. Definitely one of our longer ones, but obviously this is one of the tentpole releases for RGG Studio, so we figured, we'll take a little bit more time with this one. But yeah, let us know what you think, and tell us how you liked Lost Judgment and what you want to see next down in the comments below. Make sure to follow and like and all that good fun stuff on all of our various places you can find us. And yeah, until next time, thanks for joining me on this lovely discussion.